Ronald Acuna, who is still injured, who's sitting on the bench, who knows where he is. He's sitting there tweeting because Jared Kelenic didn't run out of ball, and Brian Snitker, the manager, did not bench him after that and said, oh, well, he benched me. It's a double standard. Do you think there's a double standard?
Yeah, first Acuna tweeted it or X'd it and deleted it very quickly, realizing, or the Braves front office realizing, I gave Ronald
or his agent
out. We're gonna somebody, or maybe him. Maybe he was just had a couple pops in him, like we all do. We all jump a couple drinks in us and drunk tweeting. It's a thing. Do I think there's a double standard? I'm hard on this one. It's hard. I don't think a double standard necessarily exists. I think Brian Snitker is a very great manager. When they talked to him after the game, one of the reporters said, is there repercussion here for Kelenic not running this out? And his quote was, well, should I have? So what he also acknowledges after that was he didn't know that Kelenic didn't run it out. He was not aware of it. Kelenic, it wasn't a matter of like he sat there, watched it, kind of took a couple steps, and then like, oh crap, and started running. Kelenic kind of took a couple softer hops, like softer like jogs, and then started running. So he was kind of moving the whole time. There wasn't Ozuna got a lot of slack for hitting it and literally like taking 5 steps as slow as humanly possible and then running. Acuna, I haven't seen the video, but I know he took a couple pimp steps.
Yeah.
Kelenic started kind of jogging and then running. And he didn't know, off the bat, Snitker didn't know all this. I think he should have handled the media better. And I also think it was probably the media grabbing that quote.
Yeah.
And instead of him saying, hey, I didn't see it, I didn't realize he didn't run, I'll handle that in the clubhouse. Snitker said, I don't know, should I have? It was kind of like you're kind of exhausted with the media. What?
It was just a stupid answer.
It was a stupid answer. It sounds like what you would say when you're kind of exhausted with the media and they say something stupid and you don't realize that it's actually something important.
Yeah.
And you go like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, why would I suspend Kelenic for not running out? What are you talking about? And then that gets played out when you don't even realize he just kind of pimped it. I don't think there's a double standard. I think there might be sometimes, and I'll be honest, a lot of times the double standard exists when somebody has a something that's been told about them or something that they've done where it seems lazy in the past.
When there's a track record.
There's a track record. There's guys that come up in the minor leagues. This is why first impressions matter so much. We talk about this all the time. When you meet people, you meet a girl, you go to a job interview, your first impression is all that matters. So if they come into the minor leagues and you're like, dude, this guy's a lazy ass, like he doesn't run it out, he does, and that's something that what happens, especially with some younger players. And in baseball, the younger players we get are from the Dominican and Latin American countries because they're 16. Yeah. They're sophomores. And we get the opportunity in America to do that in our sophomore year in high school, freshman year in high school, and nobody knows about it because you're on a backfield. No one's watching the game. You get to be lazy. Coach chews you out, sits you for a game, and then the next day you learned your lesson. So you get to learn. These guys are learning in the minors, and the problem is when you learn the minors, the first person that hears about it is your coach, and then the coach tells the assistant, the coordinator. Then the coordinator tells the minor league director. The minor league director tells the assistant GM. The assistant GM tells the GM, because we have to report all that. So if, essentially, if on day one, when you're 16 years old, you've got a reputation of being lazy, and it's like it's not rightfully so. It just is what it is. And then when they're 26, they still have this in the back of your head. You're like, he's lazy. He's just going to show it at some point. And then they pimp a home run that ends up landing on the warning track, and they have this reputation. So it's not necessarily there, but it is there. Right. But I'll say this: there's plenty of white guys that have like reputations for being lazy. Plenty of white guys that like Kelenic had a problem for a long time, and then Kelenic now goes to a new place, has a new reputation, new kind of. Those guys don't necessarily know, but there's a lot of guys that get these reputations. It's just not necessarily founded.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw this story, the first instinct that I had was, oh, good. Acuña's calling out his teammate when he's not running it out, and that's what a leader should do. But then when I thought about it even more, I'm like, okay, he could have called him. He could have texted him. He could have called his manager. Shouldn't be doing it from out there. So Yeah, I changed my mind on this whole
Handled
thing.
it in the dugout, handled it in the locker room, said, hey, Jared, and you walk down in the locker in the tunnel, like, hey, run this effing ball out. You're better than that. All right, like that's not how we play baseball here. That's how you handle it. You don't.
Yeah.
That is how Jason Varitek handles things. That's how Derek Jeter handles things. That's how these guys that are captains on teams that are just constantly successful. But to be honest, it would have never gotten to that point. You would never had to have those guys say those things. And so that's never forget Papelbon throwing Bryce Harper up against the wall, cracking his helmet, giving him a concussion, saying, run these balls out.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden after that, you saw a change in Bryce Harper. He started running everything out. He got a reputation of being a teammate and a leader after that. Before that, it was kind of like Bryce Harper, like you got to deal with him because he's so talented. Now he's become dude, and he's become the leader. Like handle it at the moment, ideally, quietly, behind closed doors. I remember all the time. And Mike Sweeney, remember Mike Sweeney in Seattle, dude. I found out like months later, like he would handle guys in that locker room. Like he threw a couple guys up against the wall,
right,
and handled it because they were very obviously over time being lazy. I remember somebody very well-known baseball player in baseball who was around for a long time, played many years.
You can name names. It's all good.
No, I'm not going. I won't, because it's behind closed doors. It should be behind closed doors. But
okay.
but he was. I look up to both of them, but I didn't even know this, and I thought the player was being a little lazy. I thought he was being a little entitled. I didn't know him personally yet, but I thought he was being a little lazy, a little entitled, pissed about his role being changed. And apparently, Mike Sweeney behind closed doors threw him up against the wall, and after that, everything changed and became a teammate, became a leader, and actually ended up having a solid year. Not quite making the money, not quite as good as the money, but at the same time, changed everything and became a much better player for it. That's the stuff that happens. That's what leaders do.
Yeah, and then on top of that, so we had this whole situation. We had Acuna going on Twitter and Kelenic, but then we had Ken Rosenthal with a stupid little bow tie write something on the Atlantic saying how there is a double standard. And if you look at it, he treated this guy like this and that guy like this, but he didn't treat Kelenic like this. And then, of course, we have Jeff Francoeur coming after the whole situation, which I don't know if you know Jeff at all. I've spoken to Jeff Francoeur at least 50 times. And although we're not friends and I don't know him like well, but I never got the sense that he was a blowhard or he wasn't genuine. I always liked Frenchie. What was your reaction to Francoeur's?
What did Francoeur say again?
Basically saying we don't need Acuna and he should have kept his mouth shut. And yeah. And then bad mouthing Rosenthal because that's not the truth. And he was saying, and the one thing that I had a problem with Francoeur saying was, you didn't know that he was that Kelenic was sitting there in Snitker's office crying for a half an hour. I would not appreciate that if I'm Kelenic. I don't want people knowing that I'm crying in the manager's office because then I'm looking soft. That's just.
I think there's a lot to play here. One, don't dog on Rosenthal's bow tie. They're incredible.
No, they're terrible.
They're all for charity. Everyone he wears is for a different charity to raise awareness, to raise money. So that's only I've talked to him a lot about it, and they're all great causes. Two, I think sometimes reputations, you get lazy and get lazy. There might be more of a reputation on Latin players than there are on other players. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I think sometimes again, you earn your reputation sometimes. I don't know. I don't think it's this. But when you play those videos and you play, especially Ozuna, and the difference between him and Kelenic, there's a massive difference between how they reacted to the ball. And there's a massive difference when a lot of times like Hanley Ramirez got the reputation pretty quickly, and Manny Machado. But when you watch the plays and you're like, yeah, that's lazy. Kelenic looked like it was a mistake. And again, you do it once, shame on you. You do it twice, you have a reputation. I don't agree with Francoeur. I think Acuna is a big part of the team. Again, you don't know behind closed doors how Acuna is as a leader, as a player. I don't know those things. I don't like that he's necessarily talking about Kelenic crying in the office, but I think what he's trying to get across is that it did matter to him, and Snedeker handled it. Snedeker handled it behind closed doors after he found out. I think that the problem, again, all goes back to Snedeker not knowing and not having that conversation and like a teammate's not handling it. It should never get to the manager having to handle it. It all started right there. I think Snedeker just said, "Hey, I'll review this. I'll check this out. We'll need to have a conversation. I didn't know," type of thing. And that didn't happen. That was really what started this whole problem.
And I think the bigger part is the fact that the Braves have been so bad to start the season that there was just a powder keg that's waiting to explode. And like everybody's pissed off. Like, wait a minute, why did we start so crappy? And Acuña sitting there like, I'm not there yet. Guys, make sure that you're staying above water. So when I get back, I can help you, lead you to the promised land. And I don't know, but do you have any kind of relationship, or have you had any kind of relationship with Snitker? What kind of a manager is he? What do you know?
You kind of asked the same thing about Frank Core. I had known Frank Core. I played with Frank Core in Arizona Fall League. Incredible. I've known him. I've known him for years after that. Like every time I saw him, like great guy, great player, great teammate, and nothing but heart for the game. Nothing but heart for the game. So if he says something, it's all about heart. Like it's great. Like he actually cares. Snedeker, awesome manager. Obviously, has had a lot of success. I think the problem is he has like kind of one foot out the door before the season and kind of talking about maybe retirement. He doesn't know where he's at. The moment you're talking like that, just no, walk away. You're either full in or full out. And I think he was so kind of, and the team like struggled last year. I'm not saying Snedeker isn't the right manager. I just don't think he's in the right headspace to handle a team like this right now. You need to have some conversations with them saying, where are we at mentally, physically? Are we going to have we need somebody to come in and start cracking skulls right now is what this team needs, because they have all the pieces. They need to start putting it together. Like Ozuna's having another really solid year. Olsen's playing well. Especially as of late, you're seeing Michael Harris Jr. Or Michael Harris II playing really well as of late, and so you're seeing things. Austin Riley is hitting almost 300, so you're seeing some really good things there. Obviously, from a pitching standpoint, it's not going the way they wanted. With Schwellenbach doing great, but the rest of the rotation not doing also good, and so there are some issues here. What?
And Strider moving to the IL.
Absolutely, your Cy Young guy going to IL. So there's a lot of things going on here, but I need a manager that's going to kind of come in and start cracking skulls. A little younger energy right now. That's my only issue. I love Snedeker. Snedeker should be the manager for years, but when his heart's not into it, that to me, and the team doesn't feel like his heart, something has to change. That's what has to change.
I wouldn't be surprised if you see Buck Showalter in those press conferences.
Oh God,
just being like, so how did you handle this? Trying to get Snitker in trouble. Maybe he gets to that job.
Yeah. I need a Buck Showalter type that has a little bit more ability to talk to younger players and Latin players right now. Yeah. But I need that type that's going to come and crack some skulls a little bit.
You know who would be really good if he was younger? Would be Ozzie Guillen.
No, too fiesta. Too much of a fiesta. I can't have a guy that's hot and cold. My problem with him, he's hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold.
Okay.
And he would say, I'm going to say it's really, he would say things to your face and then come around and say some things in the media, and you're just like, or you'll say, I'll never talk about a player. Like I'll take all the blame. I'll never talk about a player. But if that player done this and this player done that, and you're like, Ozzie. But again, Ozzie's a little too high and low. I need an Alex. I need a
Alex Cora isn't the guy. He's not firing enough.
No, Alex Cora is a great developmental guy. Yeah. I don't know. I'll think about it.